This is Leadership is Calling, a podcast that brings you leadership and business tips anchored in the people part. I'm Annie Hyman Pratt, CEO and founder of Leading Edge Teams. So today's business environment, oh my gosh, it has definitely taken a turn for most companies in that to get revenue this year, companies are finding that they have to work harder just to reach what you had last year. And for most companies, that's not even possible. But they're having to work harder. They're having to spend more. Everything is harder. Do you guys remember when I talked about these S curves of growth? Let me just write it one more time, just because I think this is really, really important. This is really important for understanding business and business cycles. And I'm going to talk about why it's really important to understand it. And it will help also get some resilience for when people around you are in some fear. Okay, so business, time, revenue and profits, we want to call it. Business really kind of goes in these kinds of cycles, these S curves. Okay, of course, it's not perfect. It looks more like the A to V, right? A bit crazy. Okay, but my point is that in business, in industries, there is a time where the growth is expanding and accelerating. And that's really where the information marketing sector, online business in general, but especially information marketing, which I think of as like teaching people stuff, right? It has been on a huge kind of growth trajectory for the last decade, really. Okay. And really in the last few years, it's kind of been slowing. Then we had the pandemic that was kind of crazy and an anomaly that helped accelerate it for some, really slowed it for others. But now clearly, because of the economy, because of the outside environment, because it's been, probably 10 years of really, really solid growth online. Now we are really in this part of the cycle, right? It's slowing. Like this is when it's, going up pretty fast. This was me at Coffee Bean in the 90s because the market was growing so fast that I couldn't mess up enough to kill us. Like it was the time when sales fixes everything because there was so much sales. So this is a great time. Love this time. Take advantage of this time. It never goes forever. It's just not possible in business. So we've hit the peak, and now we're on this slide of we're on the backside. We're on the contracting side of business. When we're here, it's a different kind of approach to business. When we're here, we are going to do a lot of things to grow our ability to grow even more in the future. This is when we want to hire people ahead of time. This is when we want to, take the risk and put in place infrastructure ahead of time. This is when we want to do, systems and processes, a lot of them, so that we can have more time to innovate and sell more, etc. This is a time when it's much harder to figure out what you should invest in because this is going down. Make sense? So what we want to do is miss the bottom. It's like there's no way to avoid some of it, but what we're hoping to do is kind of bridge over and miss this guy, because this is where we go out of business. This is just too hard. So what we want to do is get to a kind of a stable part where we can stay in business. It's maybe not like this business, but we're going to stay in business because what we do know, what I believe so strongly in, because I've lived it now a bunch of times, is that as long as we stay in business, as long as we stay relatively healthy, we get to be here when this happens. Because only two things are going to happen. You're either going to be here and get this, or you're going to be out of business, or so weak and damaged that you can't take advantage of this when it arrives. Make sense, you guys? Okay, so this is what we're going for. Okay, so this spot right here is a win. When we can do this right here, right? This is like a win, and it doesn't feel like it. This is where our ability to gain our internal emotional control, our, basically where we increase our endurance on our own self leadership to hold this place, to hold the knowing, the belief that this is going to be good for the future. Do we definitely know that? No, nobody has a crystal ball. Do we know for sure that this won't happen to us? No, shit happens all the time in the world. The whole world could fall into a massive depression, and maybe half the businesses go out of business. I don't know, could happen. I haven't seen it happen. I don't know of a time in our history where we lost half of businesses in our modern history, but could it happen? Sure. But the point is that in this kind of time where we have so much less control over our business future because of these guys. External drivers, the external environment. This is why business is so difficult. This is how business actually is a bit different than sports. Sports changes, but not like the business environment, right? It's kind of like in the business environment, the success formula in yesterday may not be the success formula today, because Facebook came on the scene, because Google changed their AdWords, because the pandemic happened, because consumers have less money today. They're spending all their money at the grocery store, because the politics has we have a pretty skeptical, divided nation that's a bit on edge. All of that makes a difference, and none of it is in our control. Make sense? It's just not. And so the big shift, the giant shift here is this one. Self-leadership, right? And this one is teamwork, ACE teamwork, otherwise known as ACE agreements. Okay, so all of this down here is the people part, right? People part. So this is the business part. This is where we have goals. This is where we have our, cross-functional leadership team. These are the tasks down here. So when we are working on this stuff up here, we are using our ability to control the most. And when I say our ability to control, what I mean by that is when we're up here, we know our goals, we look around our environment, and we're like, oh, today we need to plan, right? And then we need to turn this into sub-plans so that our teams can actually do the task. Okay, and we are going to do all kinds of things to plan, to interact with our teams, to set them up for success, to interact well. And all of these things are essentially kind of under our control. We are going to control our environment. All of us are, the team too, to do things. So a simple thing like making, like posting a comment in your forum, or posting a blog. There we go. Posting a blog. Okay. That means somebody had enough control of their environment to write it, had enough control over how it was going to get posted to actually post it. It's just a simple example, but makes sense. This is where you're doing stuff and it's working. You're doing stuff, it's working. It's mostly working. Maybe sometimes you do something, it doesn't really work, but then you're like, well, I'll do it differently, and next time it'll probably work. Okay. So here's the thing. This is the most important part that I think all leaders hit a ceiling, and that is what happens when the external environment is not good and everything you do here doesn't really work. So let's take a Facebook ad for a minute. Okay. So there was a time, like, in 2010, 2011, 2012, about 10 years ago, when Facebook ads were like a penny something, I don't know, were crazy. They were in the cents. All right. And you could utilize it and actually find your audience pretty easily. You could, get people going to a lead page that didn't even have to be all that good. Nobody really had decent lead pages, etc. So what you were working with the external environment was allowing you to be really successful. Okay, now there are situations where you can't make the Facebook ROI work. There are those situations. Can you see it? It's like everything has changed. It's sort of like, if Facebook raises their rates so much and you have so many other costs that you have to do inside the company too, to actually deliver a product that you're going to sell, you actually really need to hit a cost target now. And if Facebook shifts in a way where they're like, well, everybody else is willing to pay a lot more than you, and you're like, well, oh no, how am I going to get traffic now? Because I can't afford to lose a ton of money on every click. I'll be out of business super fast. But I don't have a next best way to get traffic. Can you see it? And all of that can change in a way that's out of your control, that you can't, that you have to react and respond, but there wasn't a way. For the pandemic is a great example of that. There wasn't a way to anticipate a pandemic and get ready beforehand. It wasn't possible. It was a major thing out of our control. Okay, so this is where human beings were really great, high achieving leaders hit a ceiling in their performance, because sometimes you're just like, well, damn it, now what? And it probably doesn't happen like overnight. Like I'm exaggerating a bit here, that like one day you just wake up and you're like, oh my God, my business doesn't work anymore. It's not really that. It's more like every day it's a little harder. You have some wins, then you have some hard times again. And it just starts to be that the level of, it's VUCA, the level of volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity is so, has gone up so much that your ability to make the right decisions, to take the right moves, to control your environment, to get on the same page for strategy goes down so much that it's hard to be successful. Can you see it? And I think all of you can feel exactly these. It's like the volatility, meaning that you don't know what Facebook ads are going to cost tomorrow. They are super volatile. They kind of move like the stock market or something. I don't know. It's just like, well, shit, I don't know what it's going to be. This uncertainty of how this economy is really going to go, the uncertainty of what are our consumers really going to do? What are they really going to think about things? How are they really going to behave? This complexity, oh my God, every one of your businesses is 10 times more complex than it was 7 years ago, 6 years ago, 5 years ago. Because 5 years ago, most of your businesses had like one main product, didn't have a need for a ton of, didn't have a need for this giant value ladder of you sell this and then you go to this next thing and then you go to this club and then you go to this mastermind and then you go to this super mastermind and whatnot. The complexity has gone up, and that now you need to, be experts in things like Facebook. It used to be that you could put your kid on it and they could do Facebook ads, your 12-year-old kid. So I'm being extreme here, right? But you know what I mean. So in fact, there was a time, right, in the early 2000s when maybe only your 12-year-old kid would even know what a Facebook ad was. All right. So the complexity for how business works, for how to actually make a profit, has gone up big time. And this ambiguity of knowing right away, how I think of this ambiguity is like, is this successful or is it not? Meaning, let's say you get a Facebook ad out there, and and it's not it's the ROI is not like double. You don't get like $2 for every $1 of Facebook ads that you spend on. Okay, but what if you get 1.2? Is that good? Is it good enough? It wouldn't have been 2 years ago, but maybe that's actually kind of good today, even though we think it's not good, because it's all like comparative. This ambiguity part of like, we don't really know where we stand right now. We don't know where the world's going. We're not sure how this is all going to turn out. So because all of this is happening, this locus of control, I don't know how to say it, but it's kind of like control our external environment.
Annie, I was thinking also with the S curve part of this story, it's like everything, if you've been in business through the upswing, right? Any phase of that in the last few years even, you've banked on certain strategies, ways of thinking and
Yes.
planning and expectations of all that's coming next, right?
Yes.
And obviously it's not a good time to start a business right now on this down
Hard time.
curve, very
Yes.
hard time. But if you've been in business, that and that whole piece of uncertainty also comes from that moment you were talking about. Now, what do we do now? Is because everything you learned from what you've done so far is not workable in the path you thought you were on. Right? It's changed.
Exactly.
Right. So there's
Eh,
a lot. I think that's the tension. So I'm just thinking of Pam's question too, right? It's like, how are the tensions building? What you're paying people isn't getting them through to the next paycheck anymore. So there's tension there. Everything that you're doing and the expertise everybody's developed and trusted in one another is like out the window. And
Yes.
and so tensions are high and obviously from the top of the triangle down, really.
Absolutely. Tensions are really high. And there's no easy answer. There's
Yeah.
no automatic answer. This is, we want to be okay. So now I'm going to talk about what happens, or what you have to move to when this controlling your external environment is decreasing. It's going down, kind of drastically. Okay, then the only thing you can actually control is what? What's the only thing that us humans can control in that? Yeah, your internal environment. And that is basically, right? That's basically this self-leadership. When I work with executive leaders, high-level leaders, CEOs even, it's just any human being in business who's achieving in business, okay? Inevitably, there will be a time that they will hit a ceiling where everything, all their expertise, everything they know, everything that they've been able to do in the past and influence people and get results isn't working. Okay. And their ceiling, their ability to move through that now completely hinges on this of, can we keep you in a good enough self-leadership place that you can internally ride out the storm? This is like a storm now, right? Okay, this is a storm. So it's like, can we get ourselves to a place where we can ride out the storm internally, be in a really good place internally, so that we can take in our environment, we can actually access the thinking part of our brain to see opportunities that you can't see when you're in self-protection, that you're able to shift your focus to the kinds of collaboration, teamwork, innovative thinking, brainstorming, etc., that you can come together in everybody being in a good place to face the uncertain world and trust that a better answer is going to come forward. You don't know that it will come forward. You don't. But what we do know, what we totally know, is that the alternative of this is really hard and awful, and now I'm here, we know how that will turn out. Because if you're in this environment and you go here, we've lost you. This is why businesses go out of business. This is why people have, emotional breakdowns. This is what burnout looks like. This is where we literally lose you. That we as humans, we can't take it. We can't take the stress. We can't take all of this, the uncertainty, the complexity, the ambiguity. And on a physical human level, that makes sense. Meaning we are wired to recognize when we're in danger and have our emotions, have our triggers, our fear triggers just kick into gear and pull us down into this hardcore. Okay, the problem is that in today's environment, that's not how success works, business or life success, really. Because even when all this is happening, the chance of starving tomorrow is low. Nobody's physical life is in danger tomorrow or tonight, but our nervous system thinks so. Our nervous system is like, what do you mean I can't get answers? Like, what do you mean I can't make this work? That's sort of the equivalent to, I didn't bring home some food today. Something like that. So we get triggered. And when we get triggered, we have no ability to stay in our thinking brain, work with each other, and access the part that actually can deal with this and can discover better, newer ways. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to Leadership is Calling. To learn more about this episode's topic, pick up a copy of my book, The People Part, at your favorite book retailer or at anniehymanpratt.com. Want to learn more about how to uplevel your leadership skills and create a collaborative team that helps you drive results? Go to leadingedgeteams.com/schedule to learn more about working with us and to schedule a call.